The Galactic Sniper Challenge. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Kepler Station training grounds as Captain Marcus Chen adjusted his rifle scope for the third time. The familiar weight of his modified M2087 felt comforting in his hands, a piece of Earth technology that had served him well through countless missions across the Outer Rim territories. Today, however, would be different from any mission he had ever undertaken. Standing behind the firing line, Marcus observed the gathering crowd of alien military personnel. Representatives from 12 different species had assembled for what the Galactic Military Council called the Precision Combat Assessment, though everyone knew it was simply a competition to determine which species produced the finest marksmen in known space. The humans had been invited almost as an afterthought, a courtesy extended to the newest members of the galactic community. The Zalithian delegation stood in formation near the central observation platform, their crystalline exoskeletons gleaming under the artificial lighting. Commander Vexith, their leader, possessed 4 arms and compound eyes that could track multiple targets simultaneously. His species had dominated galactic marksmanship competitions for over 2 centuries, and his arrogant posture suggested he expected this day to be no different. To Marcus's left, the Corvin team prepared their bioorganic weapons, living firearms that bonded with their wielders' nervous systems. These centaur-like beings could calculate wind patterns and trajectory adjustments faster than most computer systems. Their representative, war singer Thane, had already begun the melodic humming that synchronized his weapons' targeting systems with his own enhanced reflexes. The insectoid Vorthak clustered together, their 6-armed forms bristling with specialized equipment. Each member carried different types of ammunition designed for various atmospheric conditions and gravity levels. They communicated through pheromone releases that created a complex chemical language unintelligible to other species. Among the competitors, Marcus appeared almost primitive. His rifle lacked the bio-neural interfaces of the Corvin weapons, the quantum targeting systems of the Zalithian armaments, or the multi-spectrum analysis capabilities of the Vorthak gear. It was simply a precision-engineered piece of metal, polymer, and glass, but it was human-made, and that meant something important to those who understood Earth's history. The competition rules were straightforward. Each species would select their finest marksmen to engage targets at increasing distances under various environmental conditions. The challenges would test not only accuracy, but adaptability, speed, and performance under pressure. What made this particular competition significant was the winner's species would receive the contract to train the new Galactic Defense Force Sniper Corps, a lucrative and prestigious assignment worth billions of credits. As Marcus walked toward the registration table, he heard the whispered conversations among the alien observers. The translator devices picked up fragments of their discussions, most of which centered on humanity's presumed inadequacy in the precision combat arts. The general consensus seemed to be that humans, as a relatively young spacefaring species, lacked the evolutionary advantages necessary for elite marksmanship. A Zalithian officer near the registration desk spoke loudly enough for Marcus to overhear. "I understand they feel obligated to include the humans, but this seems rather unfair to the other competitors. Perhaps we should create a separate category for developing species." His companion's crystalline features shifted in what Marcus recognized as their equivalent of laughter. Their visual systems are limited to such a narrow spectrum, and they possess only 2 eyes. How could they possibly compete with beings who have evolved specifically for precision hunting? Marcus kept his expression neutral as he signed the participation forms. He had encountered this attitude before, during joint operations with alien forces. Most galactic species viewed humanity as enthusiastic, but ultimately limited by their biological constraints. They saw humans as decent soldiers for grunt work, but lacking the specialized capabilities needed for elite roles. The day's first challenge involved static targets at 1,000 meters under standard atmospheric conditions. Each competitor would have 5 shots to achieve the highest possible score on precision targets designed to test sub-millimeter accuracy. The Zilithian went first, his 4 arms working in perfect coordination as his compound eyes tracked micro-movements in the air currents. His shots grouped within a circle smaller than most species could achieve, earning appreciative nods from the observers. The Corvin warrior singer's performance proved equally impressive. His bioweapon hummed softly as it calculated the optimal firing solutions, and each shot struck with mechanical precision. The living ammunition actually adjusted its trajectory mid-flight, compensating for minute variations in atmospheric pressure. When Marcus stepped up to the firing line, the crowd's conversation died to a curious murmur. He took his position, feeling the familiar ritual of breath control and sight alignment. Through his scope, the target appeared as a series of concentric circles, each ring representing different point values. The center bull's eye measured exactly 1 centimeter in diameter. The range fell completely silent as Marcus settled into his shooting stance. Unlike the other competitors, he made no complex adjustments to his equipment and performed no elaborate preparation rituals. He simply breathed, aimed, and fired. The first shot struck dead center. The second shot landed so close to the first that the impact points overlapped. By the third shot, the observers had stopped talking entirely. The fourth and fifth shots completed a group so tight that the holes formed a pattern smaller than the tip of most beings' smallest appendage. An uncomfortable silence spread across the observation platform. The automated scoring system took several moments to calculate the final results, as if the computers needed extra time to verify what their sensors were reporting. When the scores appeared on the display boards, Marcus had not only achieved a perfect score, but had created the tightest grouping recorded in the competition's history. Commander Vexith approached the human firing position, his compound eyes examining the target with obvious disbelief. "Interesting," he said, his translator rendering his tone as dismissive despite the evidence before him. "Static targets under ideal conditions favor simpler equipment, I suppose. The real challenges will reveal the limitations of your primitive technology." Marcus nodded politely while retrieving his spent casings, a habit from his military training that served the practical purpose of reloading his own ammunition. "We'll see how it goes," he replied, his voice carrying no hint of boastfulness or defensive pride. The second challenge introduced environmental variables, shifting winds, fluctuating gravity fields, and targets that moved in unpredictable patterns. The complexity increased significantly, requiring competitors to make real-time adjustments while maintaining precision under pressure. This was where the advanced alien technologies were expected to demonstrate their superiority. The Vorthak delegate went first, his 6 arms manipulating multiple control surfaces on his weapon while analyzing atmospheric data through specialized sensory organs. His shots were accurate but required significant time between each one as his equipment processed the environmental variables. The Zilithian commander achieved faster shot times, but his accuracy decreased noticeably as the conditions became more challenging. When Marcus returned to the firing line, he made no visible equipment adjustments. He observed the environmental indicators for a few moments, watching how the wind affected the range flags and noting the timing of the gravity field fluctuations. Then he began shooting with the same steady rhythm he had established during the first challenge. Each shot found its mark with mechanical regularity. As the targets moved faster and the environmental conditions became more chaotic, Marcus's performance remained constant. He seemed to intuitively compensate for factors that required the other competitors' advanced systems several seconds to calculate. His shots came faster than the bio-neural interfaces could process targeting data, yet maintained accuracy that the quantum targeting systems struggled to match. By the end of the second challenge, the conversations among the observers had shifted from dismissive amusement to puzzled speculation. The humans' equipment remained obviously primitive by galactic standards, Yet his performance exceeded what their most advanced technologies could achieve. Some began to suggest that the competition's testing parameters were somehow flawed or biased toward human capabilities. The third and final challenge would take place the following day, involving extreme-range targets under combat simulation conditions. The distances would stretch beyond 3 kilometers, with hostile fire simulation, time pressure, and multiple target priorities. This was designed to be the ultimate test of precision marksmanship under battlefield stress. As the day's events concluded, Marcus cleaned his rifle with the same methodical care he had shown throughout his military career. The routine helped him focus and provided a moment of calm before the storm he knew was coming. Tomorrow would not just be about marksmanship. It would be about proving that humanity deserved its place among the galaxy's military elite. The alien competitors gathered in small groups. Their conversations focused on analyzing the humans' unexpected performance and developing strategies for the final challenge. Meanwhile, Marcus sat alone, making minor adjustments to his equipment and reviewing the intelligence reports about tomorrow's target configurations. He thought about the long journey that had brought him to this moment, from a small farming town on Earth to the Outer Rim colonies. From basic military training to elite sniper school, from hunting dangerous game in Earth's wilderness to eliminating threats across multiple star systems. Every step had prepared him for challenges that his alien competitors could barely imagine. Tomorrow would determine not just the winner of a competition, but the trajectory of humanity's military reputation throughout the galaxy. Marcus smiled quietly to himself as he finished his equipment maintenance. The other species were about to learn something important about the nature of human warfare, lessons that had been written in blood across Earth's history and refined through generations of conflict among the stars. The impossible shot. Dawn broke over Kepler Station with an artificial sunrise that painted the training complex in shades of amber and gold. The final day of the precision combat assessment had arrived, and the atmosphere crackled with anticipation that could be felt across multiple species and their varied sensory systems. Marcus Chen arrived at the firing complex 2 hours before the scheduled start, carrying his rifle case and a small bag of personal equipment that looked almost laughably simple compared to the massive support systems being assembled by the other competitors. The course designers had outdone themselves for the final challenge. Targets had been positioned at ranges extending from 2,000 meters to an extreme distance of 4,200 meters, scattered across a terrain that included artificial valleys, elevated platforms, and environmental hazards designed to simulate battlefield conditions. Advanced holographic projectors created visual distortions. Wind generators produced unpredictable air currents, and gravity manipulators introduced subtle changes in trajectory calculation that would challenge even the most sophisticated targeting systems. Commander Vexith stood beside a massive crystalline structure that hummed with energy, his species' latest advancement in precision warfare technology. The device interfaced directly with his nervous system through bio-neural connectors, providing real-time atmospheric analysis and trajectory calculation beyond anything previously seen in galactic military circles. His compound eyes reflected the morning light as he calibrated the system's quantum processors. The Corvan warsinger Thane had bonded with a new bioweapon for this final challenge, a living firearm that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns as it synchronized with his enhanced nervous system. The creature-weapon combination represented thousands of years of evolutionary refinement, creating a symbiotic relationship between shooter and firearm that transcended the limitations of mechanical technology. Near the Eastern Preparation Area, the Vorthak delegation worked with equipment that defied easy description. Their weapons seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, adapting their configuration based on target analysis and environmental conditions. Each shot would be fired from a completely different weapon configuration, optimized for the specific challenges of that particular target. Marcus found a quiet corner of the preparation area and began his own routine. He disassembled his rifle completely, inspecting each component with the practiced eye of someone who understood that reliability under extreme conditions depended on intimate knowledge of his equipment. Unlike the other competitors, he worked without computer assistance or bio-neural interfaces, relying instead on decades of experience and an intuitive understanding of precision mechanics. As he worked, a small crowd of observers gathered to watch the human's preparation ritual. They seemed fascinated by the simplicity of his approach, the way he handled each component as if it were a familiar tool rather than a piece of advanced technology. Several alien military attachés took detailed recordings, apparently studying his techniques for later analysis. A Zilithian engineering officer approached Marcus's position, her crystalline features expressing what the translation systems rendered as polite curiosity. "Forgive the intrusion," she said, "but I am interested in understanding your equipment's operating principles. Our analysis suggests that your weapon lacks any form of environmental compensation or trajectory assistance. How do you intend to compete at extreme ranges without automated support systems?" Marcus looked up from his rifle maintenance, considering the question seriously. "My rifle does exactly what I tell it to do, nothing more and nothing less. The targeting computer is here," he said, tapping his temple, "and the environmental compensation system is here," he added, touching his chest. "Everything else is just calculating what I already know from experience." The Zilithian officer's compound eyes shifted in what Marcus had learned to recognize as confusion. "But surely you cannot process atmospheric variables and gravitational influences faster than our quantum computers. The mathematical calculations alone should require processing power beyond organic capabilities." "Maybe," Marcus replied, reassembling his rifle with smooth efficiency. "But mathematics and shooting are different things. Math tells you what should happen. Experience tells you what will happen. Sometimes the difference matters more than the precision of your calculations." The exchange attracted the attention of other competitors who had been monitoring the human's preparation through their various sensory systems. Commander Vexith approached with the confident stride of someone accustomed to dominance in his chosen field. "Interesting philosophy," the Zilithian commander said, his translator adding subtle notes of condescension to his words. "However, precision marksmanship is ultimately a science. Superior technology and evolutionary advantages will always triumph over primitive techniques, regardless of the user's experience level." Marcus stood and shouldered his rifle, checking the familiar weight and balance. "You might be right," he said calmly. "But today's not about who has the best equipment. It's about who can hit their targets when it matters." The competition began with targets at 2,000 meters, arranged in a pattern that required competitors to engage multiple priorities while under simulated hostile fire. Automated systems created the illusion of incoming rounds, complete with visual distortions and pressure waves designed to disrupt concentration and interfere with precision shooting. The Vorthak delegate went first, his weapon reconfiguring itself for each target as his 6 arms manipulated controls faster than most beings could follow. His shots were methodical and accurate, each one preceded by several seconds of calculation and adjustment. The biomechanical targeting system achieved impressive results, scoring hits on 7 of 10 targets within the time limit. Warsinger Thane's performance demonstrated the power of bioweapon symbiosis. His living firearm seemed to anticipate targets before they became visible, and his shots followed musical rhythms that somehow improved accuracy under pressure. The combination achieved 8 hits out of 10 attempts, with groupings that impressed even his competitors. Commander Vexth stepped to the firing line with obvious confidence. His quantum targeting system processed environmental variables in real time, creating holographic overlays that showed optimal firing solutions for each target. The system's precision was mathematically perfect, accounting for every measurable variable that could affect projectile flight. He achieved 9 hits out of 10, with the single miss occurring when the simulation introduced a variable his computers hadn't anticipated. When Marcus took his position, the observation platform fell silent. He studied the target array for 30 seconds, noting the patterns and timing of the simulation effects. Then he began shooting with a steady rhythm that seemed to ignore the chaos around him. His first shot struck the primary target dead center, while automated systems generated the illusion of incoming fire around his position. The second shot eliminated a target that had been visible for less than 2 seconds. By his fifth shot, it became clear that he was not just hitting targets, he was predicting their appearance and firing before they became fully visible to other competitors. Marcus completed the course with perfect accuracy, eliminating all 10 targets in less time than any other competitor had taken to hit 7. More importantly, his performance showed no degradation under pressure, no hesitation when faced with simulated hostile fire, and no dependence on technological assistance. The scoring system required several minutes to verify the results, as the computers struggled to reconcile the human's performance with their modeling of probable outcomes. When the final scores appeared, Marcus had not only achieved perfect accuracy, but had completed the course 40% faster than the nearest competitor. The second stage moved to extreme range targets at distances approaching 4,000 meters. At these ranges, atmospheric effects became so significant that projectiles could be deflected by temperature variations invisible to most observation systems. The targets themselves were smaller than the margin of error for most conventional weapons, requiring precision that pushed the boundaries of what was considered physically possible. Commander Vexith's quantum targeting system worked at maximum capacity, processing millions of calculations per second as it attempted to model the complex interactions between projectile physics and environmental variables. His shots achieved remarkable accuracy for the extreme range, placing hits within centimeters of target centers at distances where many weapons couldn't guarantee target engagement. The bioweapon symbiosis between Warsinger Thane and his living firearm produced results that seemed to transcend normal physical limitations. The creature weapon actually modified projectile characteristics during flight, adjusting for environmental conditions that couldn't be predicted in advance. Several shots achieved near-perfect accuracy through compensation techniques that remained mysterious to observers. When Marcus stepped up for his extreme range engagement, he made no visible equipment adjustments and consulted no advanced targeting systems. He studied the distant targets through his rifle scope, observing environmental indicators and wind patterns that provided clues about atmospheric conditions at various points along the projectile's flight path. His first shot traveled over 4,000 meters through constantly shifting atmospheric conditions to strike a target measuring less than 10 centimeters in diameter. The impact point was so precisely centered that the automated scoring system initially registered an equipment malfunction. The second shot duplicated this performance, followed by a third that struck an even smaller target at maximum range. By the time Marcus had completed his extreme range engagement, achieving perfect scores on targets that other competitors considered theoretical challenges, the observers had fallen into stunned silence. The technological superiority of advanced alien weapons had been systematically demolished by a human using equipment that predated most galactic civilizations. The final stage of the competition introduced the most challenging element: time pressure under combat stress. Competitors would face multiple target arrays that appeared and disappeared according to battlefield timing, requiring instant recognition, priority assessment, and precise engagement under extreme time constraints. The simulation included counter-sniper fire, meaning that competitors who took too long to engage targets would be eliminated from their firing positions. This was where the alien competitors expected their technological advantages to prove decisive. Advanced processing systems could identify and prioritize targets faster than organic reflexes, while automated fire control could engage multiple threats simultaneously. The Vorthak delegate's multi-armed configuration allowed him to manipulate several weapons simultaneously, engaging different targets in parallel sequences that should have been impossible for beings limited to 2 arms. His biomechanical systems processed target data at superhuman speeds, creating firing solutions faster than conventional neural systems could function. Commander Vexth's quantum targeting array reached peak performance, creating predictive models of target behavior and pre-calculating firing solutions for potential threats before they became visible. His compound eyes tracked multiple target zones simultaneously, while his forearms worked in perfect coordination. When Marcus entered the final engagement area, he carried only his single rifle and the experience gained from countless combat missions across multiple star systems. The target array activated, presenting a complex scenario involving hostage situations, priority targets, and time-critical eliminations that required split-second decisions. Marcus began shooting with mechanical precision, engaging targets in a sequence that seemed to ignore the logical priority systems used by other competitors. Instead of following technological target assessment, he applied combat experience that recognized which threats required immediate elimination and which could wait for more favorable engagement opportunities. His shots came faster than the automated timing systems could track, each one perfectly placed despite the extreme time pressure. He eliminated high-value targets while avoiding collateral damage scenarios that confused the other competitors' automated systems. When counter-sniper fire began targeting his position, he continued shooting while moving, maintaining accuracy that should have been impossible under such conditions. The simulation concluded with Marcus having eliminated every legitimate target while avoiding all collateral damage scenarios, completed under time pressure that had caused the other competitors' advanced systems to make targeting errors. His performance had redefined what the competition organizers thought was possible in precision marksmanship. As the final scores were calculated and verified, a profound silence settled over the entire training complex. The human had not just won the competition, he had dominated it so completely that the results challenged fundamental assumptions about the relationship between technology and capability in precision warfare. Rewriting military legacy. The aftermath of the competition results created a shockwave that rippled through the galactic military establishment faster than quantum communications could carry the news. Marcus Chen stood quietly beside his rifle case, watching as officials from multiple species huddled around data terminals, reviewing and re-reviewing the scoring results with the desperate intensity of beings whose fundamental understanding of reality had just been challenged. Commander Vexth approached the human position with movements that had lost their earlier confidence. His crystalline features reflected the artificial lighting and patterns that Marcus had learned to recognize as deep confusion. The Zilithian commander's compound eyes focused on the primitive rifle that had systematically outperformed the most advanced targeting technology in known space. "There must be some explanation," Vexth said, his translator struggling to render the complex mixture of disbelief and grudging respect in his voice. "Your equipment shows no signs of enhancement beyond basic mechanical principles. Our analysis detected no energy signatures consistent with advanced targeting systems, no bio-neural interfaces, no quantum computational assistance." Marcus began the familiar ritual of cleaning his rifle, a process that seemed almost meditative in its precision and routine. "No hidden technology," he confirmed. "Just steel, polymer, and glass, assembled according to human engineering principles and operated according to human training methods." The Corvan war singer Thane approached from the Eastern Observation Platform, his bioweapon companion still pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that indicated confusion in their symbiotic communication. The centaur-like warrior had spent centuries developing his bond with living firearms, believing that the organic-mechanical interface represented the ultimate evolution of precision marksmanship. "Your performance transcends our understanding of organic limitations," Thane said, his melodic voice carrying harmonics of honest curiosity. "The speed of your target acquisition and engagement suggests processing capabilities beyond what our biological analysis predicted for human neural systems. Yet our scans detect no cybernetic enhancements or genetic modifications." "None needed," Marcus replied, running a cleaning rod through his rifle barrel with practiced strokes. "Human beings developed as persistence hunters. We learned to track prey across vast distances, to predict behavior patterns, and to make accurate throws while running at full speed. Those same capabilities apply to precision marksmanship, just with different tools." The Vorthak delegation approached as a coordinated group, their 6 armed forms creating a semicircle around Marcus's position. Their pheromone-based communication created chemical clouds that translation systems could only partially interpret. But the general meaning involved scientific confusion and requests for clarification about human capabilities. The lead Vorthak scientist spoke through a mechanical translator since their chemical language couldn't be rendered vocally. "Our analysis of your shooting technique reveals mathematical impossibilities. You compensated for environmental variables that our sensors detected, yet you performed calculations that should require computational assistance. How do you account for this contradiction?" Marcus paused in his cleaning routine, considering the question seriously. "I don't calculate the variables," he said slowly. "I feel them. Wind has texture and rhythm. Gravity has weight and flow. Temperature has pressure and movement. My brain doesn't compute the mathematics. It recognizes patterns that my body has learned through thousands of hours of practice." The statement created a stir among the gathered observers. Their various species had developed precision marksmanship through technological enhancement and biological specialization, but none had considered the possibility that intuitive pattern recognition could outperform computational analysis. A Zilithian military analyst stepped forward, his crystalline features glowing with internal light that indicated intense mental activity. "You suggest that organic experience can surpass quantum computational modeling and real-time environmental analysis?" "Not suggest," Marcus said, reassembling his rifle with smooth efficiency. "Prove. Your computers know what the atmosphere was like when they took their measurements. I know what it's going to be like when my bullet arrives at the target. Sometimes knowing the future matters more than understanding the present." The profound implications of this statement began to dawn on the gathered alien military representatives. Their approach to precision marksmanship had focused on technological solutions to mathematical problems, while the human approach treated shooting as an intuitive art form refined through experience and practice. Admiral Korth An, the Galactic Military Council's senior representative, had remained silent throughout the competition, observing the proceedings from the Central Command platform. Now he descended to the firing line, his massive insectoid form clicking across the metal flooring with the authority of someone accustomed to making decisions that affected entire star systems. "Captain Chen," the Admiral said, his translator rendering his clicking speech patterns in formal tones. "The implications of your performance extend far beyond this competition. The Galactic Defense Force sniper training contract was intended to identify superior technology for mass deployment. Your demonstration suggests that human training methods may be more valuable than alien technology." Marcus shouldered his rifle and faced the Admiral directly. "With respect, sir, this wasn't about proving human superiority over alien technology. Every species here has capabilities that mine lacks. Your people can see spectrum ranges humans can't detect. The Corvans can process multiple data streams simultaneously. The Zilithians can track targets that would be invisible to human eyes. He gestured toward the targets scattered across the training complex. But shooting isn't about having the best sensors or the fastest computers. It's about making the right decision under pressure and executing that decision perfectly when lives depend on the outcome. That's something that can be taught, but only if you understand how humans learn to fight. The Admiral's compound eyes focused on Marcus with the intensity of a predator evaluating new prey. You believe human training methods could be successfully adapted for other species? I believe that every species has instincts and capabilities that can be developed for precision marksmanship, Marcus replied. But you can't train instinct through technology. You develop it through experience, repetition, and learning to trust your natural abilities instead of depending on artificial enhancement. Warsinger Thane's bioweapon companion pulsed with patterns that indicated deep consideration. Your approach suggests abandoning technological advantages in favor of biological training enhancement? Not abandoning, Marcus corrected. Integrating. Your bioweapons are incredible tools, but they can't make decisions for you. Commander Vexith's quantum computers can calculate perfect firing solutions, but they can't adapt to variables they weren't programmed to recognize. The best marksmanship combines technology with trained intuition. This concept sparked intense discussion among the alien representatives. Their military traditions had developed along paths that emphasized technological solutions over individual training, believing that equipment superiority could compensate for biological limitations. Commander Vexith studied the human with new respect. You suggest that our approaches have been fundamentally flawed? That we have pursued technological enhancement at the expense of developing natural capabilities? Not flawed, Marcus said diplomatically. Incomplete. Your technology is amazing, but it's designed to replace human judgment instead of enhancing it. The most effective approach would combine your advanced systems with training that develops intuitive decision-making and environmental awareness. The implications began to crystallize for the assembled military leaders. Human training methods could potentially revolutionize galactic military effectiveness, but only if they could be successfully adapted for species with radically different sensory capabilities and neural processing systems. Admiral Corthon clicked his mandibles in what Marcus recognized as a gesture of decision-making. The Galactic Defense Force sniper training contract will be awarded to Earth Defense Forces effective immediately. However, the terms will be modified to include development of integrated training programs for all member species. He turned to address the assembled representatives. Captain Chen will head a joint commission tasked with developing training protocols that combine human intuitive techniques with alien technological capabilities. Each species will contribute their advanced systems while learning human approaches to environmental awareness and pressure decision-making. The announcement created a buzz of excited conversation among the observers. This wasn't simply about winning a military contract. It represented a fundamental shift in galactic military philosophy, moving away from technology-dependent solutions toward training programs that enhanced natural capabilities. Marcus found himself surrounded by alien officers eager to understand human training methods. Commander Vexith requested detailed information about Earth's military academies. Warsinger Thane wanted to know how bioweapon symbiosis could be enhanced through human awareness techniques. The Vorthax scientists began planning studies of human pattern recognition capabilities. As the formal ceremonies concluded and the crowds began to disperse, Marcus remained at his firing position, completing the final steps of his rifle maintenance routine. The weapon that had dominated the galactic military establishment looked exactly the same as it had that morning. A simple tool operated by trained hands and guided by experienced judgment. Admiral Corthon approached for a private conversation, his massive form casting long shadows across the firing line. Captain Chen, you understand that this outcome will fundamentally change galactic military training for generations to come? Marcus nodded, shouldering his rifle case. Yes, sir, but that's not what this was about. Then what was it about? The Admiral asked. Marcus looked out across the training complex where targets still stood, bearing the evidence of the day's unprecedented demonstration. "Proving that being human means something," he said quietly. "That our species brings something valuable to the galactic community beyond just enthusiasm and determination." He turned to face the Admiral directly. "Every species here today has capabilities that exceed human limits in specific areas. But there's something about the human approach to warfare that can't be replicated through technology or genetic enhancement. Today was about showing that our methods have value worth learning from." The Admiral's compound eyes reflected the setting artificial sun as he considered this perspective. "And what is that uniquely human contribution?" Marcus smiled slightly, remembering the long journey from Earth's hunting grounds to the galactic military establishment. The ability to improvise when plans fail, to make crucial decisions with incomplete information, and to maintain accuracy under pressure that would break most technological systems. We learned to hunt and fight in conditions where failure meant death, and that experience shaped how we approach every challenge. As they walked toward the administrative complex, Marcus continued, "Your species have developed amazing technologies and biological capabilities. But most of your military training assumes that superior equipment guarantees superior performance. Human history taught us that the person using the tool matters more than the tool itself." The Admiral clicked thoughtfully. "This philosophy will require significant adjustments to existing military doctrine." "Yes, sir," Marcus agreed, "but the results speak for themselves. When the next crisis comes, and there will be a next crisis, the galaxy will have soldiers trained to think like humans while using the best technology each species can provide. That combination should prove effective." The sun set over Kepler Station as news of the day's events spread across the galactic communications networks. Military academies on dozens of worlds began reviewing their training curricula. Equipment manufacturers started developing new technologies designed to enhance, rather than replace, organic decision-making capabilities. Marcus Chen had pulled one trigger and changed the course of galactic military development for generations to come. But as he prepared for the long journey back to Earth, he knew that the real work was just beginning. Teaching the galaxy to think like humans would prove far more challenging than outgunning their technology, and infinitely more important for the survival of all species in an uncertain universe.